Welcome to The Old Man and the Three with JJ Redick and Tommy Alter, presented by Cash App and brought to you by 342 Productions. This is episode 110, Mike D'Antoni. This is part 4 of our coaching series brought to you by the Future app. Future is a new workout experience that pairs you one-on-one with a fitness coach who will map out a custom workout plan and also keep you accountable every single day, all through the Future app. Tommy, I know you've been using this app now for a few months. The human touch is a real thing. The interaction, the real life interaction with a fitness coach is a real benefit.
Sometimes you need a kick in the ass, to get yourself out there and stay in shape. And not all of us are professional athletes with psycho work ethic.
Well, what can I say? This is the great thing about Future. When you sign up, you are paired with your own fitness coach who custom builds a workout program that is delivered straight to your phone every single week. Your coach will then check in with you via text and FaceTime and is available at any time to answer your questions, fine-tune your workout, and check your form. Keep in mind, this is the benefit of having a real human. They're there to keep you motivated. And Tommy, along the way, I certainly needed some motivation as well. It's why I always had my own trainer that helped me out along the way. So if you are ready to invest in your long-term health and wellness, you can get started with your Future coach right now with 50% off your first 3 months at tryfuture.com/oldman. Again, that's tryfuture.com/oldman. Tommy, I got to say, this episode with Coach D'Antoni was phenomenal.
Awesome.
Again, given his history, his playing background, his coaching background in Italy, and of course his phenomenal coaching career in the NBA and all the amazing teams he's been on, I knew this would be great. His storytelling, his philosophy, his perspective, all really eye-opening. This was as good as I could have expected out of Coach.
Talk about somebody who's touched so many different parts of the modern NBA experience over the last 20 years. When you just really, and we go through everything with him, but when you just look at everyone he's either coached with, coached against in different settings, I mean, you can really make the argument that, and you do this with him, that some of his principles changed the way that basketball is played.
Yeah, we talk about this, specifically the Phoenix Suns years when he had Steve Nash. So much of that was informed by chance, and taking a risk while he was coaching in Italy. And he gets into that story and the background of how he developed the pace and the spread offense. It's just phenomenal stuff. The other part of this conversation that I just loved and was fascinated by was that stretch of time when he was with the Knicks and we all got to witness Linsanity and Jeremy Lin going on that run over the course of a few months. And he was obviously had a front row seat to it, and his perspective on it was just great.
Yeah, it's just the combination of the highs and lows of what he's gone through in his career and also his perspective on it. I mean, what an awesome guy. Yeah. So friendly, so charming, so open to the point where when we get into this, there's certain things where weren't sure you wanted to talk about. It's no, just let's get it all out there.
Candid, funny, self-deprecating. There's a bunch of words I could use to describe Coach D'Antoni. Basketball genius. We'll let you guys come up with your own descriptions because I think you'll really enjoy this conversation. Let's get to it. This is Coach Mike D'Antoni, part 4 of our coaching series presented by the Future app. All right, let's welcome in Coach Mike D'Antoni. Coach, thank you so much for the time. Thank you for doing this. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
I don't have many regrets from my career, and I don't know if this is a regret or not, more so a hope that never materialized into reality. But one of my regrets in my career is that I never got the chance to play for you, although that did almost happen.
Oh, you kept turning us down. You wanted more money. That's strange that you would choose the money. I can't understand it.
To be clear, I was ready to take the offer. Daryl rescinded on the 4th year. This was in 2017. Really? Yeah, and he moved it down to a 3-year deal. And at that point, it very much was an economic decision. Actually, it's funny. I've told this story before, but very stressful weekend. And you and I spoke, and I don't know why I went outside. I was just stressed out, and I was laying on a park bench in Brooklyn Bridge Park, and it was raining, and you and I chatted. We got off the phone. Daryl rescinded the 4th year. I committed to Philly. You texted me about 5 minutes later, and you go, I would have done the same thing.
So I figured that Phoenix, I was trying to sign Brent Berry. We needed one more shooter. He went to San Antonio, cost me a championship. And I think in Houston, you going to Philadelphia cost the championship too. So don't feel bad about it.
One of the things that you said to me on that call, and this is, I think, a great place to start this conversation, but one of the things you said to me on that call that really stuck out, you said something along the lines of, my goal is for every player that plays for me to have their career year. Why is that? Why was that? Why is that? Why was that such an important tenet of your coaching philosophy?
Well, I think it's something that players can relate to. Obviously, it benefits everybody. If he's having a career year, foremost, the team's going to be a lot better. So you start off with that premise, but also it's something that give a goal for the player. It's up to my job to figure out how to put him in to spots that maybe opens up some doors for him or puts him into a situation where he can have a career year. And it doesn't work all the time, but and we kind of hit upon that in Houston, and most guys hit that in some categories where they had their career years. And we thought it was a great theme. We thought that it fit the team concept, the individual concept. At the end of the day, we all want to make money, win. I don't know which order, hopefully, winning first, but that's the goal, is to have a great career, make money, and to win. And we thought that just fit in line with everything we're trying to get done.
Coach, we've talked about this with a bunch of different players recently, but when you're managing these teams with multiple max players, multiple all-stars, everything like that, everybody having a career year can be difficult because you have so much talent. In terms of just managing those expectations and making sure that everybody's happy and everything like that, what's your best advice in terms of just being able to reach across the aisle and sort of get everybody involved?
Well, the one thing you have to do is you have to touch base every day. You have to somehow talk to them and understand that, where you're coming from, where they're coming from. But it's not as difficult as you think. There's plenty of room for everybody to have a career year. And hopefully it would be in just being more efficient, shooting percentage, not turning it over. It's up to me to create a floor where the player it's easier for a player to see. And there you have certain players like, that are so good that you don't need the spacing as much, and they actually do it on their own. But other players can become great by making their choices simple, make it simple for them, make it the space that they can see better. And we just go along that. And so I think it's my job to help each player do that. And I think have the right frame of mind. Come in that they want to come to practice, they want to play the games, they want to be in the locker room, and make sure that's a safe place and a fun place to be. So I think you can incorporate all of that into a winning atmosphere. And sometimes it doesn't click, and some guys are stubborn; they don't want to do it. But for the most part, if we're successful, then it's great for everybody.
To that point, as a follow-up to Tommy's question, there's challenges at every level of coaching, but what are some of the unique challenges that you've seen and that you still see across the league that is unique to an NBA coach? What are those unique challenges that exist in the NBA?
There's to be able to be creative without being crazy, be able not to go along with what everybody's done for the last 20 years, run the same sets, run the same way, same shoot around, same hour and a half, same film presentation, and on and on and on. If you change it up, you've got assistant coaches, front office, questioning, you're crazy, it's not going to work. As soon as it goes bad, because every team goes ups and downs. As soon as it goes down a little bit, well, see, I told you it's not going to work. And you have to fight the forces. Then you got the TV, the commentators, you got ex-players chiming in. They have no clue what you're doing. They're not there every day. It's hard enough anyway when we're there every day, trying to figure out when you watch them once a month. And so it's these are the challenges to not be swayed by, we like to call white noise, the elevator music. Don't be swayed by that. Have your vision, stick to it. And normally that works. If you got the general manager and the owner on the same page, then you have a chance. When those are, everybody has conflicting ways or views, then it makes it a lot harder. But there's so many challenges for a head coach. It's just, I can go on and on, just managing the media, just keeping guys focused, making sure the wives are happy. You could go down a whole litany of stuff that you have to be aware of.
I have a follow-up question to that. But before that, did you ever do shoot-arounds?
Oh, yeah. And
you did.
And it's funny because it's like, 3-point shots. Well, all he wants to do is shoot 3-point shots. Give me a break. Nobody just wants to do 3-point shots. Obviously, it needs to be a main thing or a big ingredient, especially if you got a team that can do it. But it's figuring out how your team, what works best for them. If you got a young team, you need to do shoot-arounds probably more often. I don't love to do them, certain times I think they need breaks. They need individual work. And you can't take a team over and do a team shoot around for an hour and then work individually, then you can't get it all in. And so you have to gauge your team. We went away from it in Houston because we had a veteran team. But that doesn't mean, people say that then it becomes a country club. And that's not the case. It's, you're shooting at 10, you're shooting at 10:15, you're shooting at 10:30, you're getting your work in. If you don't feel good, if you don't want to come over, don't come over. Stay in a hotel or stay home. I'd rather, what I want you to do to wake up 8 o'clock in the morning and drive for an hour and listen to me for an hour that you're half asleep and then go back home. It makes no sense to me. So we would gauge it. We'd have it sometimes not, most of the time not. I know one thing, PJ Tucker, when I decided to have shoot around, and I think we either got beat or we struggled. And he goes, "See, I told you, that's what happened. You start to have shoot arounds, never to have shoot around again. That's it, we're done." And I go, "Okay, guys, so you just gotta coach them. You got to do what's right for the team."
Shoot-arounds became such a point of contention later on in my career. They were pretty much universal for the first half of my career. Right. When I got to LA and I got to experience Doc Rivers, which was great. We would practice if there was 2 days between games. We'd practice on that second day, but day after a game, we're not going live. We'd all come in and get our work in. Shoot-arounds, sure. We didn't have them. I didn't do many shoot-arounds those years I was in LA or with the 76ers. And I think that's important as a coach, of course, to just have a gauge on your team and recognize what works for your team. And if you have a bunch of pros that are coming in the morning to get treatment, they are, you had Chris Paul on your team for 2 years. The guy watches more film than anyone. He didn't need another 30 minutes of film at shoot around. So
no, exactly. And he knows what he's going to do that night. Why would I bore him? Half the time he was half asleep in those films there because I don't blame him. He watched the game the whole night before, and he comes in and just trying to get through it, and that's not healthy for him, and in turn, it's not healthy for the team.
Going back to my question about the challenges, and you touched a little bit on essentially the administrative side, dealing with the media, having communication, open line of communication with the owner, the front office. On the player side, coaching players, the unique challenges there, how much of that was managing egos versus X's and O's?
Probably 90% egos managing. The X's and O's, I think every NBA coach got them down pretty good. I don't think, we've been around the game forever, starting in grade school, and you're around so many coaches, so many things. And you learn the X's and O's, and you're assistant coach for a long time. You try it out as a head coach. So that I think most coaches got. Now you just have to be able to be creative without being crazy. Getting the egos is a big part of it, and getting the team to be efficient. The biggest struggle I had, where I had struggles, is trying to get a superstar that's inefficient. And you're not going to win if they're inefficient. And to be able to say, yeah, we're paying you $30 million, but can you change your game? That doesn't go well sometimes. And it's just to be able to, and that's why we're saying career years and everything like that, because they want that. We're going to give you that, but we need to see if we can do it in this manner so that now the team's efficient and we have a good chance to win.
Coach, when you look back at the Denver job in '98, how similar was your philosophy then? Do you feel like you were you harder edge at that point, or were you sort of the same way and it just didn't?
You know what? One thing I have vague memories of that. I wasn't ready for the NBA. You know, I came right from Europe, and I wasn't prepared. And probably the best thing that ever happened, I got fired there. And so I was able to go work with Mike Dunleavy as an assistant coach in Portland and learn a lot of things of how to organize practices, scouting, you know, to the NBA standards. And so, but I know, you know, I would hope I've grown a lot and know a lot more than I did back then. I hope that. I think my personality more or less is the same. I would, like most coaches, think I would do things to cover my rear. And it's like, why? You know, it's like, you know, you're not coaching, you're not going forward. All you're doing is making sure nobody's sneaking up on you or somebody's going to think bad about the way you are. And you do things that don't help. It's just covering your rear.
One of the topics I want to discuss, and we'll get to it in a bit, is just the life cycle of an NBA coach. And I made this comment to someone the other day. There exists a level of paranoia that an NBA coach has, that front office executives have. It's inherent to the job, and we'll touch on that later. But a lot of people may not appreciate how good of a player you were. You played in the NBA, you played in the ABA. No, listen, you're going to be, humble here, but you played in Italy for I think 13 years, and you're one of the greatest players in the Italian league of all time. And then you went right into coaching, and I wanted to ask about your experience over there as a player and as a coach, and if that had any influence on your philosophy towards coaching once you got to the NBA.
Thank you. First of all, that's all. and
the guy played in the NBA, Tom, and he's trying to tell me he's a bad player.
Well, I could have been a lot better. I was mentally, as a player, I was not real confident or strong, and my shot went south, and I went to Italy. So that's just it's the way it goes. I grew up in Italy, emotionally and culturally, and I'm sure that transferred over to basketball also. As you grew up, you have all kinds of experiences. In college at Marshall University, we played a wide open game, kind of odd. Center was 6'5", and we had a 6'11" guy playing on the wing. So a little bit like how I like, not exactly, but open and let's go. In Europe, great coach Dan Peterson taught me a lot about psychologically how you treat players or talk to players, and we won. And from that experience, obviously, as a player, you say, well, sometimes we'd be big all the time just to be big. And I'm thinking, wait, man, if we'd spread the floor and these threes over here are really easy, it would be better. So that creeped in without a doubt. And, I was lucky. I played with Bob McAdoo, played with some great players, great superstars. And some of the best times I ever had was in Italy. So it definitely influenced me as a person more than anything. And I'm really grateful that I was in Italy for those years that they had me. But as a coach, probably it started because I was more traditional. I was like everybody else. You get the center, roll him out, post up, get a four that, I would like to spread the floor, but, a couple posts, whatever. And we were losing my third year. I had a great point guard, Sasha Djordjevic, who played in the NBA a little bit, Boston Celtics, I think, drafted him. He had like a cup of coffee. He was a great player. And And he was he was the best point guard in Europe, and he was playing awful. And I had Antonio Davis of Indiana, and he was my center. And they were saying he's the worst American in Europe. And I knew Antonio was the best center in Europe, and Sasha was the best point guard. He's playing awful. It's got to be me. And it was. I had him not playing the right way. So one day I just walked in the office. I said, we're doing this, we're doing that, benching my top scorer, number one scorer on the team, put him on the bench. I moved my small forward to power forward, add another shooter, open the floor up Sasha. Antonio, just pick and roll, go to the rim. We'll give you lobs. And, we went from, I think the next 24 games, we won 23 of them. And they were the two best players in Europe. And
wait a minute. You went 23-1 after benching your leading scorer.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And because he wasn't guarding, wasn't efficient. We were posting up. Yeah. Sasha was like in a box. Antonio, who at that time was a big time runner, athlete, pick and roll kind of guy, and a great defensive player. And by changing that, it worked. Now, to be able to do that, one, they were going to fire me. I thought they were. The national media was killing me. It's my third year, and we had success. But you know how basketball is. They love you until they don't. They were killing me. And so when I remember doing that, one of my assistant coaches was yelling at me, "You're going to get us all fired. This is crazy. This will never work." And so I did it. And so I learned from that. When I got to Phoenix, I did more or less the same thing. Everybody yelling at me and saying, "You're crazy. You're going to get us killed. You're going to get fired. You're going to kill Sean's career, Mari's career. It's going to be awful." And we take off, and we were 62-10 that year, or 62-20. So so like I said, I rely on my Italian experience a lot.
Coach, I have a question. So with the Phoenix start in particular, with how fast you guys started and everything like that, you're obviously a humble guy. But like, at what point? At what point do you turn around to the people that have been yelling at you and sort of doubting you and say, like, well, maybe I know something about what I'm talking about?
Well, you don't need to, because by that time you couldn't find anybody who was against it. They were all for it. Oh yeah, exactly what I said. But you get lucky too, and this is why, because the players kind of believed that I thought, but maybe not, and they're having a lot of voices in their ear. But where I got lucky was we start off the year 32-10 and just killing people. Now, if you start off 2-10, then it would probably never work, although it's the same thing. And it could have been, it took a while to get it going or whatever. So you got to get lucky also. It's just not all, it is, luck plays a lot into all of this.
Nash obviously coming to Phoenix in 04-05 was huge as well.
Gosh, luck.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because
Dallas deciding not to re-sign him, right?
They didn't want him. It's like,
yeah.
Really?
And having played against that very early in my career, playing against you guys, the Nash Stoudemire pick and roll probably doesn't get enough credit for being one of the hardest, tandems to stop. That action between those two guys, Nash manipulating, getting to the angle he wanted to, the pocket passes to Amari. Why was that so challenging to defend?
Well, I think it was one, they were really good. I mean, Steve is probably, besides the present company, with the best shooters ever. From three, from two, off 1 foot. He's unbelievable, and how he can manipulate it. Maury caught everything. He had hands. We used to vacuum cleaners. Just whatever Steve threw, he caught. And his ability to be able to dunk was ridiculous. I mean, the strength and all that. And then he developed further on, the shot and whatever. But he had that. Steve had this. Now it's my job. Just, spread the floor, let him go. And then, all defenses back then, and even now a little bit, they're all same. You got to come in, touch the roller, go back out. Well, okay, how can we exploit that? And that's what we try to do, everything offensively, how you cannot guard us. And, by playing fast, by getting that before they set up, you walk back then, they went through two-a-days and you go through shoot arounds for 2 hours and all you do is talk. Well, all that's good, but we were going to try to take that out. If we get down and score before you can do that, then all that talking you just did, it's not going to help any. So that was the first step. And the second step was, okay, if that guy's going to touch, let's put the shooter over there, have him out so far he can't get back. And then Steve is great enough to where he can just get him. So actually it was, okay, defense wants to do this, the offense got to do that. If the defense adjusts, we adjust. And I believe, you said I'm not, egotistical. Well, my feeling back then, whatever you do, you can't guard us, period. Now that we're going into that game, they can't guard us. So, Yao Ming, who's a great player, for Houston, can't play in our game. We can just say that. Hey, Yao Ming, he can't play in our game. So it's up to us to run him so hard and get him all whacked up. Coach, you got to take him out or they can't beat us. If he's playing, can't beat us. And so that was our mindset. And it worked, all the way until it didn't work. And Tim Duncan saw that. He said, no, we couldn't stop him. But, that's why basketball's fun. It's great, matchups, people, but it's the players, you guys make it. You guys are so good and so talented. It's even gotten better now. Players now are so talented, it's ridiculous. You can't guard them one-on-one.
Yeah. And to that point, I've said this a number of times, but when I think about the evolution of the modern NBA to where we are now, to me, it all started with those Phoenix Suns teams. I always mention the Orlando Magic teams we had were sort of an extension of that. 4 out, 1 in, Jameer, Turk, and pick and rolls, Dwight rolling down the rim, 4 shooters. And then, of course, the Steph and the Warriors sort of revolutionized. And the Houston Rockets were a big part of where we are as well, the James Harden Houston Rockets. Do you sort of take credit for where we are with basketball right now because of those Suns teams?
Well, I mean, I think
we'll at least acknowledge my point. You know what I'm saying? You at least acknowledge that that's a valid point. Yeah.
We played differently than anybody back then. So, for that, yes. But again, it only works that I think the Phoenix Suns should take credit. It's like I'm part of it, proud to be part of it. But without Steve, it wouldn't have worked. Without Joe Johnson, it wouldn't have worked. Without Amari, it wouldn't have worked. Without Sean Marion, I go on and on and on. And, we might touch on, but one of the things, this is before analytics. This is before they sanctioned it as okay to play that way. Before it was like taboo. And we're going against everything. We're going against the cinema on TV, everything. It was like, let's go, guys. And my job was just to keep convincing them this works. And thank God we're winning, so it makes it easier. But, as we went forward, I and I've told this a lot of times, is that I told Steve Nash, we didn't go far enough. We were right there. And you should have shot more threes. I should have made you shoot more threes. Didn't do it. We should have played faster. I didn't do it. We should have, instead of looking for a big guy because maybe we need that, we should have doubled down and gone one more shooter. It's like
you guys should have traded up in the 2006 draft for me. That's basically
great. Shaq was great, but we blinked, and we shouldn't have blinked, and we should have doubled down here. Let's go. Let's try to be the Warriors. Back then. So it's we didn't quite get there.
I have a specific question about a play and the genesis of that play. One of the hardest actions to guard, as you mentioned, a lot of teams play drop coverage now, and they try to not pull over and tag the rim. They try to allow that pick and roll to just happen 2v2 and not involve the weak side defenders. But at the time, again, some teams would tag from the top with the 4-man. Some teams would tag from the bottom with the low man. Some teams would tag with both on that roll. And one of the actions that I always found so hard to guard was you would have a single side pick and roll. There'd be one guy in the corner. Nash would either get off to his left or his right hand, and Boris would circle, and Grant did it too when he was in Phoenix, but Boris would circle underneath the rim from the dunker spot. Right. Nash would hit him. And so that low guy had this just awful, awful decision to make. Do I leave Amari for a dunk, or do I allow a direct line pass to the wing to that single side? Right. What was the genesis of that play? Did that come about organically? Were you just on the fly, came up with it in a timeout as an ATO?
I wish I knew. I don't remember. It was a big, we called it short when we did that. And it just evolves. And a lot of times, what I like to do as a coach, when we practice and we call it part method, as 3-on-0, and we try different things, and then 4-on-0, 5-on-0. And we let the players, we tell them, we want you to do stuff that you're comfortable with and invent something. We had different players like Nash. We called something in Nash because he did it naturally. And so then that became Nash. Then we would have just different players be able, the shortest kind of, or the elbow play with Boris Diaw and Amari, where he just throws it up. Either
the 4-5, yeah.
Yeah, you do that.
Yeah.
Or we'd have Eddie House coming on the side. You touch, Eddie kills you. You don't touch, it's a dunk. And we would start almost every quarter, every game, same play. And say, we almost yell at the bench, hey, we're coming at you with that play. You can't stop it. Now, and it's but it's mostly player driven, to be honest with you. And we just watch and observe and practice, film, and then try to put them in the right spots that they naturally do.
We ran an extension, or basically a carbon copy, I should say, of that play where Blake would catch it at the right elbow, come off DJ. I'd be over there in the left corner. DJ a lot of times would, not necessarily a full slip, but he would sort of set the screen and slip at the same time. Right, so he automatically got behind the defense. Again, like you mentioned with Nash and Stat, smart players are able to manipulate all these things to get the correct angle, the correct passing angle, all that stuff. It's that to me, when I think about what it would be like to be a coach, that to me would be the juice. That would be the fun stuff, is figuring out those little nuances to plays.
You know what, JJ, this is for anybody. I love coaching. And there's an adrenaline going, and you feel a bond with the players, and to be able to, first of all, watch the greatest athletes in the world play every night is like fantastic. And then you have a part in getting them in the spots where you can see how good they are. And to ride with that. And the NBA today is exciting, is more now than ever. And I think it will get exciting every year. You can't compare this generation, last generation. It's all different. And there's no use comparing because you can't ever figure it out. But the players are so much better. You watch old films and it's like, but now would they adapt to like you guys? Would somebody from 20 years ago? Yeah, they would be better themselves. It's not a matter, but the game is so good right now. Players are so talented. It's ridiculous.
Coach, I was watching the Nash, the Steve matchup with Jason Kidd in December in 2006 earlier today, where they were going off on each other. Did you have a particular either moment from him, with him, or a game or anything like that that's sort of a favorite for you, that just sort of stands out?
Well, that was one of them, without a doubt. I think every day was Steve. But one of the things, what I like about Steve is that he's never had a crossword for anybody on the team. A lot of times we come in at halftime or after the game, and before I would even say anything, he would just stand up and say, hey, guys, I screwed this game up. Won't happen too many times. It'll happen again, but not many. And he goes, sorry, let's go and get the next one. What do you do as a coach? It's like, great. And then you just go back. So he was so good. But, I remember one game against Jason Kidd, not that game, but one game against Jason Kidd, they were just killing. Jason Kidd was killing him. And I'm standing on the sideline. He comes by and goes, Coach, go ahead and sit down. Jason Kidd is kicking my ass. I can't do anything about it. But just enjoy this game because he's killing me. And, he had a great perspective on the game and a fierce competitor. And just so I think every day with him, so many games, so many good moments.
You've talked a bunch about adjusting to personnel and being adaptive to a X and O philosophy. Those Lakers years, obviously Steve, Mike Brown, I think got fired 5 games in the season and you were brought on, but Steve being hurt, and I think he missed the first, maybe 20 games, 17 games, whatever it was.
Actually, at the end, he never came back.
Yeah.
He played a little bit, but he was never right. And the only reason I took the job, JJ, besides I just had my knee replaced and I was under the influence of drugs. But he, for anybody to make it work, I thought Steve could. And that was Steve from Phoenix days. Yeah. And because he got hurt and never could quite come back, never got a chance to make it work. And then, we made the playoffs and all that, but we were never really a threat. And I thought we had a real shot if Steve could have got well.
Without Steve being Steve.
Right.
Because again, and I went through this late in my career, and I was never even close to the level that Steve was. There's obviously value in a vet, and there's a value in a vet with a cachet, but there's real value with a vet or a star player that's still good, that's still at the top of his game.
Right.
And so without him, was that really, I don't know how it was in Phoenix, but was that really the first time that you sort of experienced some maybe friction with players and philosophy and how you wanted to play versus how they wanted to play?
Friction? I thought I was going to get killed. Yeah, I would say there was some friction.
I'm trying to be gentle here.
You're being very, very gentle, and I appreciate my ego. Appreciates it. I just couldn't get them on the same page. They didn't like each other. It was contentious. We didn't really have the talent. You want to play Steve, but he wasn't up to it. Then he wasn't even there. Kobe was older. He was toward the end, still good, still great, unbelievable. But, very, very tough personality. He and Dwight didn't mesh. I mean, just a lot of things. And then tough atmosphere. Just, a lot of things just didn't work. But there's always friction as a coach, especially if things aren't going well. Winning cures a lot. Everybody loves everybody on the winning team. But losing, it's something you got to manage and got to get through.
Is that something? Is there something about the Lakers in particular? I mean, they're going through a version of this year where it's like, teams struggle for various reasons, but when they struggle, it turns into, it's World War III.
Yeah. I mean, it's either you win a championship or, you're not very good, and not all teams can win a championship, obviously, but just the media, their past, rightly so. And everything plays in, and it's Hollywood, and there's a lot of drama out there. So it's, it's a hard place, great place. Playing in the, whatever it's called now, not Staples, but playing in that arena is great. Like Madison Square Garden, it's one of the 2 places that you get up for those games. Those games are fun. And sadly, if when I was with the Knicks, every team got up for it. That's not good. And, same with the Lakers right now. Everybody's coming in. And they little, pieces of the armor, little prey. They're coming at you, and you gotta do that.
Take away the beach house in Manhattan Beach and being able to come home after practice and watch the sunset. Take that out of this question.
Okay.
Which was harder, coaching in New York or coaching in LA? In terms of the scrutiny, the expectation, I will call it fan engagement, media engagement, all that comes with being the head coach of 2 of the marquee franchises in the league.
The thing is, JJ, I really can kind of shut things out. I don't really worry about it. And I know it's cliche to say that, but I don't read anything. I don't watch TV, sports shows. I don't listen. And I tell myself I don't want to hear negative stuff around me because it just puts me in a bad mood. You make bad decisions. You can't enjoy it at all, and you go through it's miserable, and I just don't think it's very productive, and it's not. So I was able to take the walk on the beach. I love Manhattan Beach. My gosh, there's no better place in the world to live. So everything was great, except the atmosphere in the game. When they boo you, you can't block that out. Yeah. Or when they're chanting Phil's name during the first game at national anthem, they want him, they don't want you. It gets to you. I mean, it leaves a mark, but worse things can happen. It's still a great job, and it's like, seriously, I'm going to get upset with this. I'm the luckiest guy in the world. So you just kind of deal with it.
Tommy, real quick, Coach and I lived in Manhattan Beach at the same time, so we'd frequently run into each other in the town square. We would in passing, yeah. Good times, man.
You were starting your family back then.
Yeah, be I'd be walking Knox in the stroller.
That's right. Now they must be getting a little older right now.
He's 7 and 5. Yep.
Wow, that's great.
Coach, what's your perspective looking back on Linsanity?
Well, the greatest, 10 days, 2 weeks, month, whatever it was, greatest time ever. And that's where Madison Square, that's what I love about New York. It caught fire so fast, so unexpected. You're just like living in a dream. I mean, everybody is just, we would go to practice and they had, 80 media people there at practice. They had 2 rooms, a print room, a video room. And you'd have, not only would you have your normal sports writers, but Wall Street Journal, CNN, you had every, the E! Show, whatever. It was unbelievable. And what he did was unreal. And players went right there, and the whole team, the atmosphere, the garden. There's nothing better than that, other than winning a championship. If you'd won a championship, then that would have topped it. But that was some good times.
Internally, did anyone on the Knicks, including yourself, see that coming?
Well, I definitely didn't. I wish I could say, "Oh yeah, I see this." No. Matter of fact, Jeremy came up to me on Thursday. He played a little bit in Golden State at the end of a game. Didn't look very good at all. A couple turnovers or whatever. And I just played him as garbage time. So we come back to New York and we have him on a 10-day. It expires on Tuesday. So Thursday he comes up to me in practice. He's not even in practice. I'm trying to figure out, and I'm trying to get the names right, but like Baron Davis has come back from injury. Can he play? Shumpert, Iman Shumpert was a rookie. Can he be the point guard? Or somebody else? So I'm like looking at him practice. He's standing beside. He walks up to me and goes, "Hey, Coach, I have my car on the West Coast. Should I bring it to the East Coast?" And I'm going, "Oh, Jeremy, I don't think so. I think we better, let me get back to you on that one because, it's up on Tuesday." Well, then Friday, and I have to give my credit to my assistant coaches, my brother and Kenny Atkinson. They said, he's got something. He's got something. They would work him out. And I go, "God, I don't see it. Does he?" He goes, "Yeah." And I go, "Well, okay." And they said, "Well, dude, let's try it." And I go, "Okay, next game, if we get a chance, we'll definitely try him." And if I'm not mistaken, Melo got hurt in that game against New Jersey at home on a Friday, I think. And he came in and we opened things up and that was it. I mean, it exploded. He was unbelievable. In that game, we win that one. We win like 8 in a row. And he made a couple game-winning shots. The camaraderie, the chemistry of the team was off the charts. And it was fun. It was a great ride.
What's your lasting memory of that? Even though you mentioned the game-winning shots, to me, it's always the MSG game against Kobe, when Kobe a couple days before the game said "who" when they asked him about Jeremy, and then he went. I think he dropped 38 that night, and I've rewatched that game so many times. It literally feels like something out of a movie.
It really was, and what's funny was at the end of the game. So Jeremy had this thing planned. that he was going to say, well, I guess Kobe knows who my name is now. He didn't have the his guts to do that. He punted. He punted, but he really wanted to say that. But yeah, I mean that was the highlight. That was it. No one, he was phenomenal. He hits the last shot up in Toronto. He did a lot of things. That game, what he did, and everybody else. I mean, that's where Steve Novak came in to play, and he started making threes all over the place. Jared Jeffries was great. Whoever else we had, Landry Fields. There was just a lot of players that by them now we're all playing well and we're all contributing. It was great.
Coach, I don't know if you have aspirations still to coach, and so I'm not asking this question as if your career is over, but from your experience, from your experiences thus far,
right?
Do you think about what ifs? Do you think about? You do. They stick with you.
Oh, every day. Every day. Especially like I said, how we ended up in Phoenix. It's like, what if we'd have done? What if we'd have gone after this player, and not signing Brent Berry, for example. That's a big Michael Finley. We had a real good chance to get him from Dallas. Didn't quite happen. What if those guys came? What if we'd have got over the hump? What if we didn't have the suspensions? I don't know if we'd have won or not against San Antonio. They were a great, great, great team with a great coach. But we had a chance to really beat them, and we didn't really get the chance. So, yeah, there's Houston, same way. What ifs? Chris Paul doesn't go down with, does it change everything? Am I still coaching? Which, by the way, I do want to coach because that's what I love to do. And it's something that you can take 1 year off. You can be as an assistant on the bench, but it never goes away of leading a team. So, there's a lot of what ifs. I'm sure you have some in your career. What ifs? What ifs that? But on the other side, I could have never been more luckier, better having the players that I had. So I'm extremely happy and satisfied, but with a lot of what ifs.
So you still want to coach, and we mentioned the life cycle of a coach earlier and the paranoia that is inherent to the profession. Yeah. Can you just sort of talk about that and knowing that it's essentially you're signing up. I don't forget what the adage is, the old adage, but it's like you're hired to be fired as an NBA coach.
You get real close to being fired once they hire you. That's for sure. You get real close.
And so how do you sort of manage that? How do you sort of manage that and sort of remain in the moment, knowing that there's always, whether it's a player, whether it's front office, whether it's results on the floor. Sometimes we've had coach of the years get fired that year.
Well, I have a theory about that one. You know why coaches do get fired is because to get coach of the year, you have to outdo expectations. So they're expecting, for example, you to come in eighth, you come in first, and you get coach of the year. If you have a championship team and they expect you to be number one and you do that, probably don't get coach of the year. And so you overachieve with a team that there's a reason they picked you eighth. It could have been schedule went great, players didn't get hurt, a guy got better than what did you thought. So now the next year, the expectations are in line with your team. Well, then you go back a little bit because, the schedule was harder. You did have injuries. It wasn't quite the Cinderella year as the year before. So then management going, well, wait a minute. We got this great team, and all of a sudden their expectations are not realistic. And the coach who does the same job, same smartness as he had the year before, gets fired. And that's part of the business, and that's just the way it goes. But how you manage it? You manage it because you love to be in the locker room with these players. And it's going to end, and it's inevitable. And you just accept it. And whenever it ends, it ends. I told Daryl Morey when he hired me at Houston, I said, look, Daryl, here's all I ask. When you come through my office door and we talk, come through and be positive. Mike, you're doing a great job. And everything's going, let's do this. What about that? Let's be enthusiastic. Because I know one day you're going to walk through and fire me. And that's okay. We can be friends after that. And it's okay you walk through and fire me because it's probably the right thing to do. But until then, give me a chance to succeed. Don't second guess everything. Don't do this. Let's don't get in arguments. Let's be a team. If you do that, I'll give you everything. And then the day you walk in and fire me, hey, we're great. And that, to me, that's what works for a coach. And you will get fired. You will go someplace else. If not, you'll find something. But it's just part of the game. You should get into coaching, JJ. You love it. I'm telling you. But it consumes you. It consumes you in a good way. I mean, it is like that's all your thing. When I first started coaching, I used to walk in Italy. I used to walk across the street thinking I could. The cars are flying by. It's like I was thinking, stop. I couldn't even see the crosswalk. And you just get so consumed by it, but there's no better feeling when it all works.
I have a question for you off that, Coach, and JJ, I'm curious what you think about this too. This probably applies to a lot of different types of jobs, but like, how do you not have some level of anger or bitterness? Take the Houston situation, for example, where you objectively, do a great job with that team, and you've done that in a bunch of different cities. How do you keep yourself from getting to a place where, you're upset about that kind of thing, and you have this mentality of being like, you know what, I'm happy with this, and I'm gonna move on to the next thing, and I'm not gonna stew on it, and let it affect my life moving forward?
Well, because I won't change anything to stew on. You're just making your life worse than what it should be. That's the biggest thing. And it's like, we used to have in Houston that year with Chris and James and all those guys, PJ, we used to have a saying, so what? What's next? Okay, we screwed that game up. So what? The world's not going in. It didn't work out in Houston. So what? And to be objective, there's things I could have done to been better. Whether it's cultivate somebody who's making the decision, whether it's giving more time to people that need to have more time. And so there's always things you could have done better. So partially you're to blame, partially they're to blame. So at the end of the day, what good is it to look backwards? Just look now, you can learn from your mistakes. And I think that's healthy. And I understand not to repeat that. But at the end of the day, hey, we have great jobs. To be in the NBA and your job, I don't know what you do, but whatever you're doing is something you love. And if you love it, come on, we're pretty lucky because there's a lot of people who don't have that opportunity.
I was gonna ask. We did an episode yesterday with KD actually, which we haven't put out yet, and he was talking about the series against you guys where Chris got hurt, and he was basically saying with the switching and everything like that, he was like paraphrasing, but he basically was like, they had us, which I think, was kind of surprising for us for him to hear him say that. Do you look, injury aside, is there anything about that series you wish you had done differently?
Not done differently because we played a certain style. We did miss 27 threes in a row for the seventh game, and it's like, and somebody asked me, so why did you keep shooting them? Well, how do I know the 10th one's not going to go in? Then the 20th one's not going in. That's what we do. And we were really good and they're wide open shots. So it's like, I'm going to yell, and don't take that wide open shot, go drive it and throw up something that, turn it over or something. It didn't make any sense. So I don't have any regrets. They are a great, great team. And we, going back to Kevin's point, we switched everything. We took all their, they love the, 500 passes, whatever it is that get shots and stuff. Not against us. You're going to go one-on-one. And you do have a great player in Kevin as a one-on-one guy, but you really don't like to do that. We're going to make you do that. And we had some great one-on-one players, Chris and James and spread it out. And so it's, we could see in their eyes, we had them on the ropes. Now, whether we won or not, nobody knows that. And I'm not stupid enough to think, yeah, okay, we would have, like the suspensions in Phoenix. I don't know. They're a great team. They might have found a way too. But, yeah, that's a big regret because, then we'd still be in Houston. I'd have Chris and James would still be in Houston and beating up on people. So that's just the way it goes.
Coach, my last question for you is both, in your time coaching in the league since you got started and even looking at the league now, is there a player that you wish you coached or wish you coached now that you feel like would fit into your style that you just have never gotten a chance to coach?
Well, I mean, obviously the easy cherry picking ones is Steph Curry. I mean, we were picking 8 in New York, and man, we wanted him so bad. I could taste it. I didn't know he's going to be the Steph he is, obviously, but for New York, he would have been on fire, and he went 7th, and that was one of the highlights of my disappointment. It's like that's huge, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, I don't want to get the history wrong because it seems to be when I look back in history, I always tilt it toward myself, which is a great way to stay sane. So, my version of it, we could have, I think, moved up to 5 to get him, but we had to give up a player. And I think the reasoning at the end of the day, but management, we're going to get him at 8 anyway. So why give up that player? And whether that's true or not, that's just a regret. And, he's the number one guy I would have liked to coach probably.
It's a great answer. And those what ifs of where players get picked, the NBA history is littered with that. And it is fascinating. Tommy, we could do an entire podcast series on NBA what ifs.
You're exactly right. You're right. But there was a book out there about presidents as what if the other guy would have won, how our country would have been. It's a great book, but what if is a big part of what makes basketball go around though. Everybody talks about it on Monday or, after the game. And what if this happened? Or why didn't they do this? Well, and I love the analysts at the day after. Why didn't you do this? Well, if I know we were going to lose the other way, I would have done that. I'm thinking I'm going to win. So it's crazy.
Coach, we greatly appreciate the time. This has been a lot of fun, and I hope to see you on a sideline next year, man.
Sounds good. But hey, thanks for having me, and it'd be great to hang out in Brooklyn, man. This time of year is coming.
Come see us. Come up.
Yeah. All right. See you, Coach.
All right, guys. Take care.